On March 14, 2008, Charlene and Ernest Scherer were killed in their Pleasanton, California home. The couple had a 29-year-old son, Ernie, whose alibi was that he had been exhausted from a 2-day poker spree in Las Vegas and was asleep by 6 p.m. The police considered this to be a fairly weak alibi. He had been home alone because his wife and son were away visiting family. Though he lived nearly 400 miles from the crime scene, there was a 17-hour gap in which he could have committed the murders. Surveillance video shows a red convertible matching his red Camaro entering the Castlewood Country Club where his parents lived. About 4 hours later, the car left. At the crime scene, bloody size 12 shoe prints were discovered along with a warranty from a baseball bat. Upon investigating further, police found a receipt for a youth baseball bat, soccer gloves, and a pair of size 12 shoes. Just days after their murder, Ernie was very insistent on receiving his parents' will as he was to gain over $2 million from their estate. He was arrested in February 2009 and in March 2011 sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences for their deaths. In 2017, 27-year-old Cristina Prodan met 25-year-old Joseph Porter on Facebook. Joseph was married to a man at the time, but he later relocated from Little Rock, Arkansas to Edina, Minnesota to live with Cristina, where he began to exhibit aggressive tendencies. Cristina obtained an order of protection against Joseph in December 2017. He was arrested for violating it shortly after, but Cristina chose to let him back into her house. On January 5, 2018, Cristina's mother contacted the police and asked them to do a welfare check at Cristina's residence. When the cops came, the home was in disarray and Cristina and Joseph were nowhere to be found. Police then discovered that Cristina's phone had been pawned at a Walmart in Cabot, Arkansas. A surveillance video showed Joseph and his husband shopping at Walmart at the same time. Joseph was arrested at his husband's Little Rock residence. He admitted to killing Cristina after brutally assaulting and strangling her. He then put her body in a bag and fled to New Orleans, where he attempted to burn the body with gasoline in a shipping container. On January 12, 2019, Joseph Porter pleaded guilty to second-degree unintentional murder and received a 20-year jail sentence. On April 23, 2006, the Richardson family was brutally murdered in their Medicine Hat, Alberta home. A young boy passing by the house discovered Mark and Deborah Richardson dead through their window. Their son, Tyler Jacob, would later be found dead upstairs. 12-year-old Jasmine was thought to have been kidnapped, but that swiftly changed when evidence showed otherwise. Jasmine met 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke at a rock concert in 2006, and the pair became a couple despite the age gap. Jeremy claimed to be a 300-year-old vampire werewolf, and he carried a bottle of blood around his neck. Jasmine's parents discovered the relationship and banned them from seeing each other. The pair wanted retaliation for this. Jeremy attacked the parents on the night of the murder, stabbing each of them repeatedly. Jasmine, on the other hand, stabbed her younger brother in the chest before Jeremy slashed his throat. They would later be caught together 100 miles away. In November 2007, Jasmine was sentenced to 10 years in prison, the maximum allowed under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, which made her the youngest person in Canadian history to be convicted of murder. In December 2008, Jeremy was convicted and given 3 life sentences. On January 9, 2008, 31-year-old Clayton Weatherston went to the home of his 22-year-old ex-girlfriend Sophie Elliot in Dunedin, New Zealand. Sophie was in the process of packing for her move to Wellington, where she was relocating for a new job. Leslie, Sophie's mother, answered the door and let Weatherston in after claiming to be carrying a parting gift. Leslie ran upstairs when she heard cries emanating from her daughter's bedroom, assuming her daughter was being sexually attacked. Instead, she discovered Sophie's lifeless body with Clayton straddling her and stabbing her repeatedly. According to Clayton's account of events, an argument broke out in Sophie's bedroom and she tried to attack him with a pair of scissors, so he murdered her in self-defense. Sophie had 216 stab wounds to her eyes, genitals, breast, cheeks, scalp, neck, and the tip of her nose was severed. However, considering the quantity and severity of Sophie's injuries, the presiding judge finally dismissed his claim of self-defense. Clayton Weatherston was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 18 years on November 15, 2009. Rebecca Aylward was brutally murdered with a rock in the woods near her house in South Wales on October 23, 2010 by her ex-boyfriend Joshua Davies. Despite the fact that they had only dated for around 3 months the year before, she and Joshua had known each other for several years. Following their separation, Joshua allegedly joked with his buddies about murdering Rebecca, either by poisoning her or shoving her over a cliff. Thinking it was a joke, one of his buddies promised to buy Joshua a large breakfast at their favorite cafe after he completed the deed. Joshua texted his friend 2 days before the murder saying, quote, "Don't say anything, but you may just owe me a breakfast," end quote. During the trial, it was revealed that Joshua lured Rebecca into the woods and repeatedly beat her with a rugby ball-sized rock from behind. He initially denied murdering Rebecca and even blamed a friend. Joshua Davies was sentenced to life in prison with a mandatory minimum of 14 years. Joshua confessed to the crime nearly 8 years later in October of 2018, admitting he was the only one at fault. This is 49-year-old Martin Koch. He served 15 years in a Dutch prison for manslaughter and extortion before being released and starting his own true crime website. That website enraged the Scottish Mafia and a notorious Dutch-Moroccan hitman. In 2015, Martin's house was riddled with gunshots and he had found a bomb under his car. He escaped unharmed both times. On December 8, 2016, Martin was walking down the street in Amsterdam with two men when a would-be assassin ran up behind him and pulled the trigger on a gun that was pointing at his head. The weapon did not discharge and the guy fled. Martin was completely oblivious to what had just transpired and continued walking. Around 11:20 p.m., he was seen leaving one of his favorite brothels and getting into a Volkswagen Polo in the parking lot. A man approached the driver's side window and shot Martin as he sat in the car, killing him. In 2022, a high-ranking Scottish gang member named Christopher Hughes was convicted of murdering Martin and sentenced to life with a minimum of 25 years. Dezirae Anderson, a 20-year-old aspiring model, and her 24-year-old boyfriend Tyler Griffin were staying in a Times Square hotel on May 2, 2023, while visiting New York City to introduce his parents to their 8-month-old daughter. The couple got into a heated argument that took them from their 10th floor room out into the hallway. Tyler allegedly grabbed the baby out of her arms and flung her down the stairs into the arms of another guest while hitting, kicking, and dragging Dezirae. He pushed Dezirae through the fire door and locked her outside, leaving her bruised. Nobody knows for sure what occurred next, and the investigation is still ongoing, but Dezirae made her way to the hotel's roof and was found dead on the second-floor scaffolding. Tyler was acting erratically in the hotel lobby when authorities arrived, so they had to tase him before arresting him. He was taken for a psychiatric assessment before being charged with assault, reckless endangerment, and acting in a manner injurious to a child. Tyler was released on bail because he had no prior criminal history. The baby is currently with Child Protective Services.